Hey, Madison and Kyle, just wanted to go over the settlement statement, and obviously let me know if you have any questions, but I'm just going to take it from the top. This is your check balance or checklist of credits and debits so that you know what you're paying for versus what the seller is paying for and how everybody gets paid. And this is where we come up with that final number of what Kyle is working on getting transferred already over today, the 20,000 and change. Yes, I know it's a lot of change. All right, so we're gonna start with page 1, and you have your seller, your description, and then your borrower/buyer. And then you have the 2 columns, debit and credit, under each one. So the first part is the sales price, which is $565, and that's gonna show up as a credit to the seller and a debit to you, the buyer. You have your $5,000 deposit that you've already made, the loan that you have taken out, the $554,766, a lender credit. So Ruben is giving you a credit of $841.03, and then the seller credits, which is the $90 a day to close early. And then we go down a little bit to the prorations and adjustments, and those are going to be the assessments. That's going to be, I believe, that's the tax assessments and the HOA assessments. So because the closing date is on the 25th, anything that's due prior to the 25th, the seller has to pay, and anything after the 25th, the buyer has to pay. And that's why it's prorated, because these entities don't work on the same schedule as we do. We have to kind of follow theirs. Then we have the loan charges to SunWest, and that's that prepaid interest. So it's at $89.29 per day. We're actually asking for the $90, so you're gonna make a couple bucks there. Other loan charges, the broker compensation, so that's how Ruben gets paid, the $8,321.49. And then the appraisal fee, and that POC means paid outside of closing, which means you paid that already. So that was the $575 that you paid to have the appraiser come out and tell us that you had equity in the house. Then on page 2, we have the credit report, because everybody has to pay for their credit report. That's $121, and I know we can get it for free from certain sites, but that doesn't count when we're using, when we're applying for credit for a mortgage. Your document prep fee is $38. The FHA upfront for your mortgage insurance premium, that's $9,541. That's so that you pay down your monthly fees on that. $24.95 to register with Mercor Holdings. I really don't know exactly who that is, but it's all part of that closing process. Tax service fee, because somebody has to be responsible for getting the taxes and filing those taxes. That's $60. Third-party processing fee is $9.95. Everybody makes a little bit of money. And then your signing agent fee, that's the cost of the drawing a blank, the notary that's coming out in a couple of hours to sign with you. And then your impounds are monies that are being held so that you don't have to have an annual bill. So in your impounds, you're going to have your taxes, your insurance, your principal, and your interest. And the reason that the mortgage company wants to get your taxes and insurance is to make sure that those always get paid, because you could be foreclosed on by your taxes and your HOAs if you don't make those payments up front. So what they do is they take a couple of months to get you started in your escrow account, and then every month part of your payment will go into that escrow account as well, so that at the end of the year they have the money in the account in order to pay the taxes and the homeowner's insurance. Okay, so homeowner's insurance for 3 months was the $318.51. Property taxes at $211.26 a month for 4 months. That's $845.04. And then you've got a credit, this aggregate adjustment of $211.26. And then your settlement fees, your title policy, that's your Alta loan policy, and that's to cover the amount of the loan itself. And what that does is protect your rights to the land and the home. So nobody can come from somebody's past, Deborah's past or anybody prior to the home being owned by her and say that the house is hers. This is what that title policy does. And so that's $14.73. And then because it's a planned unit development, it's $100. And then they also have to protect the minerals. That's another $100. And the environmental to Pioneer also is $100. So you have a lot of these one-time fees. You'll never have these again. Once the home is yours, it's yours. And like we talked about, you're going to be there for many, many years. So it's all good. Let's see, the home seller also pays a policy. So that's that $16.59 on their side. So they're actually, well, I was going to say they're paying more, but by the time we add in all these hundreds, no, it's pretty close. Then your title fees to the title companies, they pay $6.91. You're paying $8.92. My guess is that the seller does a lot of business with Pioneer Title because they did ask for us to use them, and that's why maybe they're getting a little bit of a different price there. Although, if you go down to the next couple of lines, the commission to Urban Lux is a couple $100 more than the 2.5% that they are paying me. So I'm sure it all comes out in the wash. Yeah, so that $200 could go back up to the title and be even. Government recording, because everybody, again, needs to make a little money. So the recording of the fee to Pioneer for the deed is $30 and the mortgage is $30. So you're actually going to sign two documents later. You're going to sign the deed, which says the house is yours. And then you're also going to sign the mortgage, which says that you're going to make payments to secure that deed. And then we have the payoffs for the seller. So the seller owes $251, $270, $76. So that's got to be paid at the closing, so that this way there are no other liens against the property. A lien is an amount of money that's being owed for the property. So the property has to be free and clear of any liens. And so that's why we entrust the title company to pay off the loans, to make sure that there's no, oh, I forgot to mail the checks. And you have no disputes over who the house belongs to. Then you have the taxes, the current half of the taxes. Let me just look at this, make sure I'm reading it on the right side. Yes, so you're going to get a credit of $12.74 because the seller is paying that $12.67. On page 3, you are splitting that HOA capital improvement fee. That was that 0.25%. It's being split right down the middle for the two of you. The seller is paying the $315.69, which is the balance of the HOA fees. Then you are paying $300.69, which is the prepaid assessments. Just like the taxes and insurance, the HOA wants at least 2 cycles worth of HOA fees, because, and keep this in mind, if you should ever find yourself in a tight financial position, always pay your HOA fees, because the HOA is actually filed first in the lien order. So the HOA actually has more control over whether or not they'll take your house than the bank does. So always make sure you pay that HOA fee. And then the seller has to pay that $400. So anytime that you sell a property in Anthem, the HOA gets $400 in order to write up the paperwork that we've received beforehand that says there are no outstanding judgments, no outstanding violations, and everything is good and paid up on time. And then that brings us down to the final numbers. So yours... that's where we see balance due from the buyer. That's at $20,706.32. So that you are totally financing the $581,804, and they are receiving to pay off, or after paying off the mortgage, she is receiving $279,078.75. Let me know if you have any questions. The or the notary will go over all these as well, but this way you have a half a clue ahead of time, and that big number of $20,700, I'm going right back to it, $20,706.32 doesn't surprise you. And judging from the emails that I've seen going back and forth already between Kyle and Title, it doesn't surprise you, and that's a good thing. So let me know, and we will talk soon. Thanks. Bye.